Talk about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned on a busy afternoon. Here's Lorne in San Francisco. He might know something about the Cambiar mess. Lorne, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have for me?
Hey, Chris. Great. Thanks a lot. Man, thanks for getting me through the 90s when I lived in New York as a Giants fan. This guy, you know, he's always been kind of, you know, he had that redneck kind of thing going on, and he liked the SEC too much, but he's been a producer of the morning show for years, and he's had shows on the weekends too. I mean, it's not like he's, you know, some 28-year-old dude.
So the guy who was fired, he did the Murph and Mac show? He produced it for a long time?
Oh, yeah, he's been producing forever, and he'll fill in, you know, on the holidays and stuff, and he does the weekend show with, you know, Marty Lurie or whatever with the at AT&T. And, you know, he does that, and he's got a show during the football season, you know, that's really good on Saturdays. And I think maybe just going to the bar stool, maybe he just thought this was open, you know, to do whatever he wanted to or whatever. But,
is there any reaction in San Francisco about this today, or nobody cares?
They talked about it. Most of the guys on air probably just, you know, said, hey, you know, things happen and whatever. I mean, they're pretty corporate owned, so I'm sure they weren't allowed to say as much.
Yeah, you're probably right. So in other words, Dan, it was mentioned, but this is not an outcry in San Francisco, to make a long story short.
No, he got killed on, you know, I checked out his Twitter page, and he was just killed on that, but otherwise he was just, you know, he's a guy that didn't seem that bad, you know, he's, you know, like I said, he liked the SEC too much, but he never really came out with too much stuff like that.
So maybe KMBR should have given him a break, and you know, let it, you know, a suspension, a notice. Maybe they could have done that. It's poor taste. It's dumb to say it. I'm not going to obviously support it, but I mean, you could make an argument that that's a strong suspension, a strong response from the company. Here's Mario in Minneapolis, the official transportation director of the Mad Dog Unleashed team, who did a great job for me on Friday when we were struggling. Mario, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm well, pal. Let me tell you something. I could not disagree with you more with your take on these various suspensions and firings, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear.
First of all, what I'll say is with regard to Stern, back when he was on terrestrial radio, I remember the Olsen twins. You remember them when they were prominent as like 12, 13, 14-year-olds?
Vaguely.
Howard had a count.
Yeah, vaguely.
Okay. Well, Howard had a countdown for years about when they'd turn 18 and would be legal to have sex with. So, I mean, this is a bit he did over years and somehow managed. And then don't forget, Mel Karmazin was at the helm and calling all the shots. So if you're making enough money for an enterprise, you could essentially get away with murder. Now, with regard
it's a different era today. You have to be a lot more careful, but I understand your point. What's number two? Go ahead.
But also your criticism with regard to, I don't want to be pro-sexualizing a girl that many might consider to be too young, but a 17-year-old who's about to turn 18 on April 23rd, when the age of consent is between 16 and 18 throughout the land, our neighbors to the north, who many think are more civilized, Canada, across the whole country, it's 16. So let's not make her out to be a 12-year-old. I mean, that's entirely inappropriate. 12, 13, 14, even 15. 16 straddling the fence.
Yeah, bottom line is you shouldn't. You know, Mario, I don't know what you disagree with me about that. Bottom line is you shouldn't say it. That's the bottom line.
Why not? Why not? I'm doing a radio show, and I have an audience that I'm entertaining. Now you have an outside person trying to make a lot of trouble, put pressure on sponsors. They buckle, they fold. You're in the radio business. You're a Marconi winner. You should have the spirit of free speech. So, I mean, do you want to be complicit and all of a sudden have our country? I mean, you know, the Germans kept quiet and Hitler came to power. I don't like this political correct environment that you're playing a role in emboldening because you're not speaking out about it.
How about EEI? Let me hear your take on EEI.
Why did you say? Come on, talk about grandstanding. They're shutting things down for a 12-hour stretch, so every single person goes through sensitivity training. And listen, Chris, please, I don't want to hear a dial tone. Give me a minute. I'll wrap this up real quick. I've been in a tough position for a long time because I'm a passionate fan of yours, have been from day one when I stumbled upon your show. And I love Dino Costa, okay? So this is the only point I'm trying to make. Fair is fair. I don't believe that you're doing it intentionally, but you cannot perpetuate what amounts to a lie when here's a guy who openly told his audience for months, I will no longer be on the Mad Dog channel because, you know what, I didn't feel they were promoting me. They didn't want to change my hours. So I asked Sirius to put me on some crap channel, and he built it up. Sirius severed ties with him because, you know what, they realized, why are we paying this guy what he did, what he was making on the Mad Dog channel, on a channel that...
That's not the reason. That's not the reason, because the producers couldn't stand him. But okay, go ahead. Believe what you want to believe. Go ahead. Continue.
No, you believe... You make it say... Listen, you know Rosie O'Donnell, I think, had a channel on Sirius. She's been one of the most vocal persons saying that 9/11 never happened. You know how many people presently over Sirius airwaves call Trump a creature and an animal and a pig, and he doesn't deserve to be in the White House and should probably die. So stop acting like that. Dino had some negative things to say about Obama and thought he had some conspiracy theories about 9/11. But don't make out that he got fired from your channel because of what he said. He asked for another channel. They gave it to him. They put Tim Sabian in charge of that. Talk about a fall from grace. Tim Sabian used to be the program director for Howard 100 and 101, the two most prominent channels on Sirius. All of a sudden, they were sending him out to Wyoming to work out the particulars of Dino being on. I don't even remember the channel they put him on. You know what? He started picking on Sabian over the airwaves. Sabian had thin skin about it. He impulsively fired him. You know what? Sirius backed up Sabian. As they said, why do we want to continue to pay this guy hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on at 6 in the morning on a channel that we don't believe in?
Well, first off, he wasn't getting. You're going to hear the dollar tone now. He wasn't getting paid hundreds and thousands of dollars. And remember one thing about Dino. Dino can't hold down a job. St. Louis, Portland. I mean, we go on and on and on. Dino gets a chance because he's got talent, and then he can't help himself a month in. So, I mean, and that goes for us here, too. So, I can't. Why am I even getting there? Mario makes me go in that direction. Here's Pete in Long Island, New York, and he's with us here. He's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Peter, good afternoon. How are you today? What's going on?
Mad Dog, refugee from FAN. How are you?
All right, we got a refugee fan here. Ray, get off the... there you go. Let's hear it. On the life rafts, trapped between two stations. Got to find some hope, and you found it here. Good to have you with us there, Peter. What do you have for me today? Let me hear. Fire away.
Hey, just real quick. You made a comment earlier about how it's tricky to be a radio host. I just want to disagree with you a little bit about that. I know you guys are on the air forever. You and Mike used to talk for 6 years. You were the most popular radio show in the most competitive market in the world. And you guys never had that shock jock type mentality. You know, just don't be a racist. Don't be a sexist. Treat people properly and people will respect you and talk sports. I mean, it's not that hard. It's not as hard as you're making it out to be.
Well, I think back, 20 years ago you could do that. I'm not sure if you can do that so easily today. That was my point with the infiltration of so many channels and the urge to stand out and be heard. I think it's a lot. I mean, in our day, you didn't have that scenario. So I just think that with so many people in the mix trying to get a foothold in a sports industry or in the communication industry is the best way to say it. I think it's very, very tricky to make noise, to do a good job, and walk that fine line between being edgy and not over the top. And I think that's what the kid has to deal with today. I think that's the hard thing. Peter, we didn't have to do that back then. Well, we were not in that scenario. I mean, we didn't have 9 million competitors. There was no social media. There was no blog. There was nothing. Show 1 to 6:30. We had competition amongst us in the city or other radio stations, but we didn't have any competition on the internet. Much, much different. Much different. Today is competition all over the place. Here's Steve in El Paso, Texas, and he's with us here he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. We say hello. Steve, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good, Chris. How are you?
Fine, Steve. Thank you. What's on your mind now?
So I've been in sports radio, hosting an afternoon drive show during the week for 20 years, almost 21.
Where's that, Steve? What town?
El Paso, here in El Paso.
Okay, go ahead. Fire away.
So originally from New York, born in Brooklyn, little kid living in Massapequa, and then moves out here to El Paso in the late 70s. Grows up here, goes to school at Texas and Austin, and comes back. And, like a lot of people, in 1995 when I started in sports radio, there was a way to do it. And it was pretty simple. You speak your mind, you get the stories off the AP wire when they broke, and take phone calls, interview some guests, and you put yourself a really nice, entertaining show together. And for me, that's kind of been the same way I've handled things over the years. Haven't changed.
And that's the way you should do it. That's the way you should do it.
But here's the thing: if I was coming out of school now, I don't know if unfortunately the way we are society-wise, it's hard to make it with that type of show now than it would have been 20 years ago.
Well, I agree. I agree with that. I agree.
So it's interesting. You talk about
not as many people care. I mean, then I want to break down Tiger Woods' opening round today at the Riviera, and 20 years ago he was winning the Masters, and all we did was talk about it for 5.5 hours.
Exactly right. But here's the thing for me. I can't get into girl talk. I can't get into shock talk. And luckily for me, my listeners over the years have known, and they've kind of, the show's evolved with my listenership. But like a lot of people, I had dreams of going to the Fan back in when I first started and wanting to make it big. And then you make it big in the town you grow up in, and things are okay. Yet I hear stories about what's going on in Boston at WEEI and around the country right now. And the fact is, it just seems like sports radio is turning into a business of who can top each other every time out and try to not get fired. And that's not how I grew up in the business. It's not still how I'll approach it. And yet I feel bad because once I decide to call it quits and hang it up, it just seems like our type of host is dying away. You don't find many like us anymore out there in the business.
I think I hit it right in the head. That's a great call. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think the solid, everyday sports talk show host who does a little of this and a little of that, focuses on his local team and his market and everything else, does the little, you heard Steve, does his interviews, takes a few phone calls, starts the show with a monologue, does 3 or 4 hours, and, says goodnight and does it Monday through Friday. Maybe he works an extra day. Who knows? I think that breed is dying out. I completely agree. And I don't know what the answer to it is, but they're dying out. And that's basically what we try to do here every day. We try to do that kind of show. Now, we're not always successful day in and day out, but that's the kind of show we try to do. Mark in Florida, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Mark, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Chris. First time, long time.
Good.
I got 3 quick things, and then I'll hang up. One, how can you explain how Joe Namath is in the Hall of Fame and Phil Simms isn't if you compare their stats?
Well, because Namath won the sport's most important game. Namath also had incredible numbers in the AFL. Namath was a rock star. Namath, in a lot of ways helped with the merger.
But the stats don't compare.
I understand that. There's an intangible aspect to any Hall of Fame vote. Namath had that Phil did not necessarily have. So that's number one. Number two.
Okay, number 2, half the distance to the goal. Why don't they just make it 1st and 15 or 1st and 20 instead of backing them up half a yard?
I don't know the answer to that. Those penalties that offenses take inside the 5-yard line amount to nothing. And if you add I don't know that there has to be a reason. I hadn't thought of it, so I learned something there. Next, go ahead. Third.
Okay, finally. I understand he's banned from baseball for life, but Pete Rose in as a player and not as a manager.
Oh, that I totally agree with you on. The Rose thing is a joke. I mean, I've gone through that a million times. It's a joke. I don't understand. Well, I do know what the Hall of Fame wants to do, but that one I have trouble with. Yes, Steve Torrey, how are you today?
Christopher, how you doing?
How you feeling? Mark Reynolds a fan, so we like that. Rocky, hope he gets a job.
Big Mad Dog
He's a big
Sports
fan.
Radio
Yeah,
fan.
big fan. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. And, of course, so is Jeff Francoeur, who played for Atlanta, had a great throwing arm out in right field, had some good seasons. He's a fan as well.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Buchanan.
Yeah, Cannon, yes, indeed. And, a lot of EEI today. Did you hear some of that?
I heard a little bit of it.
Yes,
yeah.
indeed.
Yeah.
A little this KMBR thing out there with the host in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And serious, they put him on Barstool and then they got to suspend him 2 days. It's a little shaky.
I don't know any details about that. How did you know about it? I didn't know about it.
I checked it. I checked into it. The guy got fired from KMBR. Then
Now that I knew.
And then Sirius suspended him 2 days, today and tomorrow. Oh, maybe it's tomorrow and Monday. Whatever it is, he got suspended 2 days.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, okay.
And that was them or the Barstool folks?
Well, I don't know how that. Well, that relationship I do not understand. I mean, does Sirius control Barstool's talent, or do they just buy Barstool and Barstool does its thing? You tell me. You're in management. You fill me in.
From what I understand, I don't know all the contractual details. From what I understand, I believe Barstool has control of the talent. Well, I mean, but Sirius, can't they put a little pressure on Barstool to tell Barstool this behavior or this statement can't be tolerated? I honestly
we have to make
know.
a statement?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Not sure.
I would think they I think they probably could say something along those lines, but you might be able to direct me on that if you wish.
If I had information, I'd let you know. I honestly don't.
Okay.
I don't know how that works.
Hey, otherwise, so we did an EEI. I have a major problem with Henry. With this political correctness, with the monuments and everything else, you can't rewrite history.
You've talked about that.
I got a major, and it sounds like the Red Sox, for whatever the reason, don't like EEI, don't like the morning show on EEI, and we know Brady doesn't. Brady did like it, but he had an issue with it too.
Sure.
And it sounds like the Red Sox are a very important entity for EEI. So it sounds like EEI got caught between a rock and a hard place. A very successful morning show that is profitable, and a major team in that city that wants something done with the morning show.
And I got some major influence on it.
So what we'll do is we'll play it right down the middle. We'll all take a day off, and we'll go have a sensitivity deal on Friday. Now, as Bob Ryan said, how that works remains to be seen.
Yeah. Well, obviously they got to work through some stuff, so I'll be interested to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, indeed. Now, Dino Acosta's scenario is a little different, and now I know he had issues with Tim Sabian. We gave Dino a million chances here at Mad Dog Radio. I think you'd agree. A million chances.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Sure. Million chances. He was here. How many years was Dino here doing shows? 4 or 5 years?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't here initially when we started, but came on, I think, maybe about a year or two in.
You're a hire. Good hire.
I'd have to go back and look.
I was a Steve Torrey hire. I was a good hire. It was a good Steve Torrey hire.
He's a talented guy. Absolutely.
Very talented. If he could just keep, he's nuts. If he can keep his nose clean, we'd be in good shape.
No, he's doing fine from what I understand, so that's good. We wish him all the luck.
Very good. All right, changing the subject.
Anyway, what else happened?
Are you feeling okay today?
I feel very good.
Now you going? You got the house to yourself? Lauren's away?
Not yet.
With Luke, you got a little basketball game tomorrow. Luke on his way to being a big star at that Fox Lane basketball team in high school down the road.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Game tomorrow for you. You'll be in good shape with that, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to go see him play tomorrow.
Yeah, leave
I'll
early?
get there late, but whatever.
Well, what time's the game, Steve?
4:15, but it's in North Salem, and my train doesn't get into 4:15. North Salem's 20 miles away.
Why don't you drive to work tomorrow? Save yourself an hour.
Friday to try to get out of the city.
Well, why would you even go to what time's the train?
3:16 is the earliest one I can get.
Well, why would you even go to the game? I mean,
because
the time
I
you get there, you got to get the game's over when it's at 5 o'clock. You got to get there.
I get there by halftime, and I get to see some of the second half. And the important thing is
you got to go all the way up to North Salem to see 10 minutes of these quick 8-minute quarters.
If that's what it takes, I haven't seen him play once all year.
Well, whose fault is that? That's your fault.
I'm very busy. What am I going to do? This is an opportunity that I figured I would take advantage of.
Very strange.
And if I see him play 6 minutes, then so be it.
You sure he's going to play once you get to the game? You don't want to bust your fanny like that, and then he's on the bench.
He sees a decent.
Well, he starts. He's a big player.
Stop.
So there you go.
Enough.
And then you're going to go see Kyle next week. So you got a big week ahead of you.
That's correct.
Kyle out there in Colorado. Does he have baseball? Is there a game? Colorado start the season yet?
No, Colorado doesn't have a baseball program,
because,
which I've told you multiple times.
Because baseball starts early in these colleges. I was wondering if Colorado began the Pac-12 conference yet.
Yeah, no, they're the only Pac-12 team without a baseball program. So he's not playing.
Not playing.
Yes.
Which is odd.
I'm going to watch the Buffaloes and the Bruins. UCLA's in town on Sunday.
You'll be into that.
They beat them the first time at Pauley Pavilion. We were aware of that.
Colorado, yes, you told me. Yes, you did. I was
having a decent year. They start 4 freshmen. They're going to be good in the future.
Very good. My buddy Wilkie Gilmore.
That's right.
Went there. Did you?
Well, we had that big discussion.
Have you, by the way, looked up on the Colorado record books? Your kid's working for the program. Has he looked up history with Wilkie or not?
I have not informed him of that. Maybe I will do that.
How could you not? Why don't you go by that gym and see if there's any pictures of
I'm sure there is.
The old New Cannon star.
I'm sure there is.
Who went to Colorado in 1960 and was a great player.
The Coors Event Center, they call it.
The Coors Event. Okay, very good. Everything else?
I'll check that out.
It's important.
I'm sure there's got to be photos of him. He was a big-time player.
He played well there. Got drafted by the Hawks from New Cannon. Born and raised. 3 state championships.
I'm aware.
Everything else under control?
Everything seems to be pretty good. Thanks for checking in.
Very good. Are you ready to go? Well, what's going on in sport? Tiger
today, he shot a 72, 1 over.
Yeah, I did. Is Phil playing this event?
Yes, he is.
What does he say?
I think he. Let me just get the.
How does he not have that for you? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I saw that he didn't do anything spectacular. I mean, I think he finished. Oh, actually, no. Did he finish his round?
137. He still might be on the golf course. Yeah. Steve doesn't know. All right, but Tiger a one over.
You got to realize that sometimes it takes a little while for the.
Well, you should know what Mickelson did before you walk in and doing an update. I mean, my gosh,
he was at 1 under.
I didn't give you a Patrick Harrington. I mean, I gave you Phil Mickelson for crying out loud. So he's 1 under. All right, so Tiger.
I got to check it.
Federer playing Philip Kroschbeier.
He won his match today.
Oh, he was the scores.
Oh, geez. Do you really need that information?
All right, so he's got to win one more now to be number 1 in the world?
That's correct. He wins his quarterfinal round match. He'll be number 1. He'll be the oldest player ever. And have the number 1 rank.
And the oldest player ever, and obviously hasn't done it for 6 years. So that's number 2. What else?
By the way, it looks like Larry Fitzgerald will return for a 15th season with the Cardinals.
I saw that. They don't have a quarterback. We'll wait and see.
Did you see that the Orioles signed Andrew Kashner?
2 years, $16 million. Yeah. I did. Anything else?
He wasn't horrible for them last year.
That's not a bad deal by the Orioles. They're looking to get a little upside with the pitcher and maybe strike a little lightning.
He did make 28 starts.
And what was his?
He had a 3.4 ERA.
Yeah, for Texas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. Give it a chance.
I mean, he's an eatings eater upper.
Yeah, he's been hurt a lot, but it's not a bad opportunity. And by the way, Patrick Marois is off to he's off to spring training.
We haven't finalized everything, but we are planning.
He's our nighttime guy.
Mickelson, by the way, is 1 under. He shot a 70.
70.
Yeah.
Patrick is going to somehow show up at Angels camp one morning next week.
That's right.
First off, he's going late in March, which makes no sense. But he's going to show up. I don't know why he doesn't go next week or March 3rd.
No, we have it set up where we're going to, because we got the Vegas shows with Patrick from our friends from VEASAN.
Well, why is he going the week of March 3rd?
Well,
That's when he should go.
He's going to go the week before Vegas and the week after.
Yeah, it's March 10th.
So?
Now, when is he going to spring training?
It hasn't been finalized. We're looking into a couple of different options. But either way, it's going to be terrific.
All right, Angels, he's going to show up at the ballpark at 7:30 in the morning with his producer who doesn't know Altani from Pujols.
That's not true.
And he's going to sit there and he says, okay, who wants to do an interview with Patrick? He's going to realize those spring training shows are a little tricky.
So we get the assistant batting coach. What's the big deal? Trying to build and develop relationships.
Yeah, boy, I love you, Stevie. We take a time out here on Mad Dog Unleashed.